truck.
Oh, and I can't take this either. It's in the truck.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. We're all rushing around here.
We're good. Oh, I need to put mine. Yeah, see it's attaching on top. Maybe. Think that'll work, huh? I think so. Hold back one.
Yep.
There we go.
I know how that goes.
Get down now.
Good enough? Or one more one? Thank you, sir.
all set? No, I'm talking about juries. You're all set? We're gonna wait for your partner? Have a seat, relax. Would we have to wait for your partner? I wouldn't have the jury. Cause I'll go get him.
All rise for the jury.
Welcome back, everybody. Anybody read or listen to or hear anything about the case? Are you all ready to get back to work? Let's do it. Who's our next witness?
Joanne, come forward, please. Face the judge.
Sir, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes, I
And what is your first name?
Cheryl,
Spell it.
T-E-R-Y-L,
T-E-R-Y-L. And your last name?
Land, L-A-N-D.
Thank you, sir. Please have a seat right here and speak loudly.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You'll see a variety of microphones in front of you. Some are for the media, some are for amplification, and some are for recording. If you just simply keep your voice up and answer so at least we can hear to this first row, it would be appreciated.
Okay. Okay.
There we go. I want it. Credibility, okay, 0 for 1. Here we go.
All right.
Mr. Land, is there another name that you go by that would be less formal for me to use?
Rick, please.
Okay. Rick, how old are you?
62.
Where do you work?
C&G Publications.
And what do you do for them?
Major account sales advertising.
How long have you had that job?
20 years.
Are you single or married?
Single.
And what city do you live in?
Shelby Township.
Do you have any, I guess, hobbies?
Cycling.
What type of cycling when you say cycling?
Bicycling. Endurance, speed, distance.
Not, so basically leg power as opposed to piston power?
Correct.
How often do you ride?
3-4 days a week during the cold and in the warm weather, 5, 6, 7 days.
Are you familiar with the Macomb Orchard Trail?
Yes, I ride it regularly.
What, I guess, distances do you normally ride when you go out for exercise?
Short ride is 20, long ride, longest I've ever ridden is 100, but I average 30 to 45 miles per ride.
When you ride, we have had some information provided to the jury by the FBI agent Zentz talking about fit apps. Do you use a fit app?
Yes.
Would you, I guess, what's the name of the program that you use?
It's Map My Run, but a part of that is Map My Ride, and it tracks speed, time, distance, elevation.
When you normally ride, do you use that device?
Yes.
Is that device what I would call a separate device like we have before phones became smartphones and we would buy the little device to put in the rental car to figure out where we were going in strange towns? Is it a separate device or is it one that's on your phone?
It's actually on the iPhone.
You then bring the iPhone with you?
Yes.
How is the data then stored or retrievable by you for, I guess, your edification after you've done a ride?
It's retained in the phone's memory. The data is maintained. Every ride is broken down. I can go back for every ride I've ridden since I've started using it for the last 3 years. So every ride is broken down, distance, speed per mile, elevation, the total distance of the ride, my average speed per increment. It's not necessarily per mile, but per increment that it breaks down on the trails. And everything is retained within the application.
Do you save then every ride that you've done since you've purchased this sports tracker?
Every ride I've ridden, it's part of my routine. I put it on automatically before I get on the bike. I keep it on the entire time that I'm on the bike, and I don't shut it off until I'm returned home, and then I finalize the ride and I maintain the data.
You indicate that you live in Shelby Township and the Macomb Orchard Trail. The portions of it, I guess, that we've been dealing with are located in Armada and Richmond. Those have been the two cities that we've heard most about. Where do you access the Macomb Orchard Trail normally?
Right near 26 Mile and Mound. right by Stony Creek.
Okay. If I could, I want to take you to July 24th of 2014, Thursday. Did you ride that day?
Yes.
As part of your routine, did you capture the electronic information that you discussed previously on that ride?
Yes.
I'm going to hand you People's Proposed Exhibit Number 108. I have shown it previously to Mr. Sheik and ask if you can identify the face sheet of that ride.
I'm sorry, what was that identified as?
Exhibit number 108 is the face sheet of the Fit app summary page, I guess, of that ride on that day.
Yes, I recognize it.
And now that I've testified for you, is it exactly what I said it was?
It is.
Okay.
It's the image capture of my application for the ride that day.
Thank you. At this time, Your Honor, I would move for the introduction of People's Exhibit number 108.
No objection, Your Honor.
It's submitted.
If I could ask you to step down, Rick, and I'm going to hand you the thing. First of all, let's go through the summaries at the top. What is the distance that you rode that day?
43.16 miles,
And the time it took you to do that ride?
3 hours, 2 minutes, 54 seconds.
Now, it gives an average speed of 14.2 miles per hour.
Yes.
I guess we're going to look at that tracker in just a second. That is an average speed. That does not list the high and the low.
That's the average speed. It states right here, average speed.
Okay. Are there times where in this ride, this 3 hours that you're out there, that you actually come to a stop?
Yes.
Are there times that you slow down?
Yes.
What would be the times you would normally slow down?
Approaching a crossroads, a deer jumps out in front of me, wildlife, but mostly approaching crossroads.
Do you ever in this 3 hours actually come to a complete stop and rehydrate at all?
Occasionally.
And if you would look at the red line here on the bottom, and would you indicate what that red line shows the jury completely?
Which red line are we discussing?
This one, correct.
This right here?
Right. Keep your voice up.
That's my start.
All right, so that's the start where you indicated at Stony Creek,
Yes.
and it ends, or the red line comes to an end in Richmond. Is that where you turned around?
Yes.
Okay.
At the gazebo.
Therefore, this red line sort of just simply depicts the starting point, the ending point, and your return point.
Yes.
Critical to part of what this case is would be time. It lists, I'm assuming that's your picture?
Yes.
All right, what's the date next to that picture?
July 24th,
And it has a time listed underneath that. What's that time?
6:46 p.m.
Is that the start time?
No.
Okay, what is the start time?
Approximately 5:40, 5:46, about an hour prior to that.
Okay, and why is there that 1 hour difference?
That I'm not certain.
Okay.
Possibly the change of time on the application for daylight savings time.
So you didn't start at 6:46, you started approximately earlier, 5:46.
Correct.
Okay.
Left my home at 5:46.
From the point that you turned the track.
Correct.
Okay. Would that have been when you left your home, or would that have been when you got on the bike as you began to get on the path?
On my bike, approaching the path, within 100 feet of the path.
Okay. Going to hand you People's Proposed Exhibit number 109 and ask if you recognize or recall what we placed on that disc.
Yes, I do.
What is it?
It's the download of my app.
Therefore, what information you indicated when you followed the path and you talked about how it's recorded this portion, this ride on July 24th that you've just shown us has been downloaded so that we can see it in the form displayed by the Map My Ride software.
Yes.
At this time, I would move to introduce People's Exhibit number 109.
Your Honor, no objection on behalf of the defense.
It's admitted.
All right, we could put that up there, Craig. Let's do me a favor, let's push this right back, Craig, to the beginning. Is it locked in because of how he did it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Captured that area.
So the jury can see it and understand it, and we are creating a record. I would like you to explain what this thing is down there. I forget the word for it. Graph. There we go. Thank you. I'm not an engineer. It's a picture.
This is the elevations and the edge you're going along on the miles per hour. This is a simple graph for distance and for speed. At the height, 22 miles an hour. At the lowest, 11 miles per hour. My speed at this time on this line was 17.3, so at that point on the trail, I'm picking up speed and going fairly quickly on the ride. And all of this information is at the distance, time, speed of 17.3 at this point. And as this moves along, if Craig moves that along, not now, but if he did, that this information would change depending on where I'm at on the trail, my speed and the time and everything. So it tracks, I believe, down to a percentage of a second.
Therefore, we have hour, minute, seconds, and then the blue line talks about is the graph of your speed itself. So sometimes you're faster, sometimes you're slower.
Right.
We may assume when it gets slower, that would be at like a major crossing, or where you might stop real quickly to rehydrate, something like that.
Hydration or...
I just wanted to keep standing right there. Let's talk about July 24th. What was the weather that day?
I believe it was very warm.
Need him to keep his voice up.
Okay, you need to keep your
I believe I was very warm. I believe it was very hot.
What were the, sky conditions?
Clear, sunny, hot,
Any,
typical July Michigan day.
okay. I see that you wear glasses here to testify. Do you wear glasses when you're on the trail?
I wear sunglasses, but not these glasses.
Okay. Are the sunglasses prescription glasses?
No, they're not.
The glasses that you're wearing today, which I am assuming are prescription,
Yes.
and the glasses that you wear on the trail, are you nearsighted or farsighted?
Can't see far away.
All right.
So nearsighted.
Thank you. Do you, I guess, you don't require prescription glasses then when you're actually riding?
Driving or riding, no.
You had your sunglasses on that day?
Yes.
Anything unusual happen between the time that you got on at Stony Creek and the time that you approached Fulton Road?
Nothing unusual up to Fulton, no.
When you come to Fulton Road, do you recall whether or not you had to slow down, because according to the witnesses that have testified before you, that seems to be one of the major routes in and out of the village of Armada. Do you slow down as you cross that road?
There's usually heavy traffic right here. It's a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, so the cars have to slow down coming in. There's usually traffic. Right here there are, I believe there's 3 or 4 benches that are set up, and it's a cooling station. And I usually stop. If the traffic's heavy, I'll stop and I'll get the bottle. If the water. Be clear on that, the water bottle. And but I'm not sure if that day if I stopped or if I slowed down for traffic, but usually right here it's either a dead stop waiting for traffic or I stop just to drink a bottle of water, because that's the next 7-mile stretch to Richmond.
Are you familiar, if you've ridden that path enough, with something that we've been calling the granary?
Yes.
So you know where that's located on the corner?
Yes.
And then you would also know that the granary between the granary and some trees, there's a field after the granary before you head back into, I guess, what we call like a tunnel of trees?
That would be right here.
Okay. As you are approaching and passing the granary, Craig, do we have the visual from this that puts us right at Fulton Street? Or is that where we're at right here? Okay, there we go. So we've got this little green thing here. So at 59 minutes and 57 seconds into your ride, approximately 14.66 miles is when you come to Fulton Road.
Yes.
So if you had started at approximately 5:46, we are at approximately, give or take a few seconds, 6:46 p.m.
Correct.
Now, I noticed that when we look at your app tracker, it does give the seconds during the time of the ride itself, but the start point just simply is an even number.
The start point of the actual ride?
Of the actual ride.
0 seconds.
Okay. And when you listed, when we showed the face page, it said 6:46, which was 5:46. It doesn't give a second one way or another, just simply says that period of time.
No period of time.
So just 3 seconds under an hour, you are at the Fulton and Path Road. Now, do you encounter at any time a motorcycle on that path?
No, I did not.
As you're passing the granary and heading into the tunnel of trees, is there anything unusual that you see?
Yes.
Okay. What's that?
Well, I probably ridden this trail maybe 100 times over the past couple of years, and never do I see a dog free, ever. And there was a dog sitting to the south side of the trail, somewhere in this general vicinity, but right on the right side of the trail. The reason I noticed it was because I never see one. I'm always looking for deer that jump out, because they jump out all the time. They can do a lot of damage to a car, let alone a body on a bike. So I'm always paying attention, but a dog sitting there was on. And I noticed it, and I'm going 14, 15 miles an hour, which doesn't sound fast unless you're on a bike. If you're on a bike, you're moving along pretty good, and I just noticed it. I looked down, saw it, and wondered what the heck. And I thought someone was probably walking it and had stepped into the trees to relieve themselves, is what I had thought. So I kept riding.
Now, let's break that down a little bit. When I had asked the question, I was talking about the granary. You have given us a designation further down the road. Craig, could we put People's Exhibit number 31 up? Just, the jury has been looking at an overhead of Armada Village that included the trail. So
That's the granary.
Okay, then show us on this photograph, if you would, that general area where you saw. Okay, so that would be just west of what we would call the Liberty Path?
Yes.
And you're heading in an easterly direction. The jury has seen the path. Is the dog on your right or your left?
The dog is on my right, which is the south side of the trail.
Do you see a collar on the dog?
No.
Do you see a leash on the dog?
No.
Would you describe, I guess, the foliage at that area as you're passing by at 15 miles an hour?
It doesn't look like much in this photo, but if you're on a bike, it is like, I would equate it to a jungle. It is so thick in the summer. If you were to go out there right now, you could see the houses right from the trail. You could see these homes from the trail. But in July, in the summertime, the foliage is so thick and dense, you can't even walk into it. It's that thick. You have to kind of part it to make your way through it. Very heavy, heavy foliage on both sides.
Are there any distractions for you at this point? And by the word distractions, are you listening to music?
No.
Do you have any headphones on of any type?
No.
Your focus is on the road, on the path.
Path right in front of me.
Have you passed anybody, even walking or riding on another bike, between Depot and the location of the dog?
be specific, I pass people all the time on the trail. It's hard to remember back to that exact day, but I'm rarely passed, and I pass most people. So I'm riding for speed, and I usually pass most people. I know I passed a few people that day specifically, I can't remember.
Just so that I get the seriousness of the hobby, you wear a helmet, you have the regular riding clothes on, the like skin tight nylon sweat. Well, not saying how good we look in them, I'm just simply saying
It is what it is.
Okay. And the bike is actually a real bike in terms of it's a bike meant for this type of distance travel.
Exactly, yes.
And as a serious rider, then you're not listening to music, you're paying attention to what's
Never
on the road.
listen to music, I don't plug in, I don't listen to anything. I like to be in nature, it's my time of meditation, basically. I like to be in nature, listen to the nature while I'm riding.
As then you're riding in this direction, I guess how far is it ahead of you that you first see the dog and continue to, I guess, look at the dog?
Well, it's on what I call a dog leg on the trail, this big bend. It stretches for some time, and it's a slow, gradual bend in there. So your sight distance for seeing to your right is limited. If you're riding like this, your eyesight is here, so you're looking on the north end. And as you're coming along the dog trail, the dog leg of the trail, it's bending. So the dog came up, what I remember, rather quickly. As I'm looking out in front of me, I'm looking 10, 15 feet out in front of me as I'm riding, because on that bike, trying to speak up, on that bike, you're leaned forward, so you're looking out about 10, 15 feet in front of the bike. And I noticed a dog sitting out there, and for the next 5 or 6 seconds as I rode by it, I'm looking back going, that's odd. So that's how long I saw it.
I'm going to show you people's exhibit number 4 and ask if you can recognize what's in that photograph.
That would be the dog I saw, or one just like it.
Same coloring,
Yes.
and you're indicating it was on the right side of the path?
It was on the right side of the path, actually sitting down, which I also thought was odd, and that's why I thought the owner had gone into the woods.
Now, this is just showing a little bit of the path. The jurors have seen the path, and they've seen it has a shoulder here and a shoulder on the far side, and then there's a dip down to the right. Where exactly was the dog in that description sitting?
This was the edge of the trail. The dog was sitting on the limestone gravel portion where the grass starts to pick up just prior to going down into the foliage.
So if we look carefully
If
up
this
here,
was the side, it would be sitting like right in here.
this is actually the trail, and this is looking east this way, so it would be.
So he would be sitting right in this area, just off the actual path, but on the limestone, the loose limestone gravel by the grass.
Does seeing a dog, I guess, sitting there by itself cause some concern because you're riding a bike?
Sure.
Do you see the dog take any action whatsoever to come toward you?
No.
Does the dog ever get up?
No.
Does the dog make any sound as you pass the dog?
On going east?
Going
No.
east.
No.
You've indicated the dog comes up on you quickly. Do you look to the right to look inside to see if you can see an owner?
Sure. But it's heavy foliage, so you can't see him.
Did you take the time to look across to the other side of the path at that time?
I glanced around, but you're moving pretty quickly, so, I mean, I looked around just to see if there was an owner as I was riding by, but nothing. Didn't think much of it. I thought the owner was in the woods.
Okay.
And by in the woods, I mean in the foliage. It's quite often there, you have to relieve yourself once in a while. It's a lot of distance of nothingness out there, so.
Is it unusual to see people walking their dogs on the trail?
No.
Is it unusual to see people jogging the trail?
No.
Is it unusual to see people on regular bikes on the trail?
No.
And the number of times that you've ridden that trail, have you ever seen a motorcycle on that trail?
Never.
Have you ever seen an ATV on that trail?
Let me correct myself. I have seen an ATV, not a motorcycle, but an ATV with a guy and a girl. They were teenagers, and there are farms out here, and I thought it wasn't this particular day, but the only time I've ever seen it, they were crossing the trail on an ATV, going from what I thought was like farm to farm. So
therefore not actually riding down.
Not
along
on the trail riding, it's against the law as far as I know.
You can take that down, Craig, thank you. But
Only
his,
other time that I see a moving vehicle on the path, on any trail, is when it's the Macomb County Sheriff's, or Oakland County Sheriff's, if you're on Paved Creek. And they have patrols that are on ATVs.
What's the distance, I guess, from, an approximation, from where you see the dog then to Richmond, where you turn around at the gazebo?
About 6.5, maybe 6.5 miles.
Anything unusual happen between that point and the gazebo?
No.
You turn around and you then head back toward the direction, I guess you're heading back towards Stony Creek so that you can come home.
Coming back this way.
Okay. Craig, do we have that? No? Okay. Do you see the dog again when you pass that area?
No.
Is there any concern that you have as you're coming back that you'd seen the dog the first time and you're taking a second chance going past that dog a second time?
Any concern that I have?
Yeah.
Well, I did think, I wonder if the dog's still out there. So as I was coming through this general area again, consciously I'm aware the dog was there. So I kind of looked around as I'm coming in.
You rid the trail a number of times. You indicated you were very familiar with where you saw the dog. Are you able to tell the jury that you know exactly where that dog was, and so you were knowing when you were coming up on that spot where it was that you'd seen the dog the first time?
Yes.
Okay. Are you then consciously looking for the dog now?
Yes.
Do you see the dog?
No.
Do you hear something?
Yes.
What is it that you hear?
Repeated barking.
Now, you had indicated as you were heading out, you saw the dog on what we would consider the south side of the path on the way out. Where is the noise, where is the barking coming from this time?
On the north side.
Do
In
you-
approximately the same area, but on the north side of the trail.
Do you look for the dog?
I look.
Is there a reason that you weren't able to see the dog?
Foliage.
Could you tell from what you were hearing how far into the foliage the dog was?
I would think 20, 30 feet. Close enough that I could hear it right on the other side of the tree line, but I couldn't see it.
You indicated the dog was sitting proper when you went out. Do you know whether the dog was moving around? Could you hear any other noise besides the dog noise at the time?
No, it was just what I call a pedestrian bark. It was just like a constant arf, 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 arf. It's just, it was enough that I went, what the heck? But I kept going because I'm on the bike trail, and I didn't put two and two together until I got home.
Was there anything that I guess happened the rest of the way down that path as you headed home?
No?
All right, you can have a seat. You can take that down, Craig, for a second. You are obviously here because you have become aware of the case. Would you tell the jury how it was that you came to contact the task force at the Armada Village Police concerning what you just testified to?
Well, when I got home, I have a routine. I get off the bike, I wash the bike, clean the bike, wash my riding clothes, put the bike away, and I usually flick the news on when I come in the house just for noise, and I saw reports of...
Keep your voice up. Thank you.
I apologize, Your Honor. As I'm going through my routine, the news is on, and I start hearing basically that there was a murder on a trail, or that there was a situation on a trail which turned out to be a murder. My nephew is a Macomb County Sheriff's deputy, so I called him and told him I was on the trail, and he recommended that I call the 1-800 number for the FBI, which was looking for information. So it was either that night or the next morning. Honestly can't remember. I think it was that evening I called the 1-800 number and left a message, and then they contacted me. And when they did, I was on the bike trail again because I ride it constantly. So I was on the bike trail, and they wanted me to come out to the high school, which was, I guess, all of the officers, the term I used at the time was Armada was just crawling with FBI agents, police, sheriff, local police, FBI, everything that could be out there. I mean, literally 60, 70, 80, 90 officers. And I told them I was 2 miles up the trail and I could just come to the school. So they had me come to the school, which was, I don't know what they would call it, but that was their setup for their investigation.
We learned it was like an administration building, I think.
And so I went there and I met with 2 FBI agents, and they introduced me to another. They downloaded my application. I told them where I'd been on the trail. Do you want me to continue with what I did with them?
Right. Because did they do more than just simply take a statement from you?
Oh, yes.
What did they do?
They took a statement, which was lengthy, and then they asked me if I would get in a patrol car, and they were going to take GPS items that I'd never seen before. They were for locating specifics on the trail, coordinates. And they drove me out on the trail in the car and asked me to stop them when I thought we were in the area where we were. So I stopped them, and then we walked the trail, and I pointed out to them the closest to the east and the farthest to the west that I thought I saw the dog and everything that we've been explaining.
Now, on the trail at that time, is there any designation, any markings as to where April's body was found?
Not that I'm aware of.
So essentially, when you're with the agents, the path itself is, I don't want to say pristine, but there's nothing that obviously says, look over here?
No, with the exception of right by the granary, they had yellow police tape to stop traffic from coming on because the trail was closed. And I believe the same thing was farther down near Omo Road. They had it taped off. But in terms of markings on the trail or of any knowledge of where anything was happening, no, there was nothing.
Because you're so familiar with the trail, you're pretty confident then in the areas that you indicated that you heard, you saw the dog first, then heard the dog the second time. Just for this jury's perspective, if you can, from where the dog was seated on the south side of the path when you went by the first time, and then in the foliage when you heard the barking the second time, was there a distance, a separation?
In terms of north and south?
Right.
It felt like the exact same spot, within 20, 30 feet of each other. Again, you're moving along at a speed, but that's a dog leg on the bend, so it's impossible to misinterpret it. You're not on a if it's still up there, west of that dog leg. It's almost a straight shot for 4 miles, and you don't come to a bend in the trail. It's a railroad track converted, so it's a straight shot. And that's the only dog leg that exists between Armada and Richmond, so it sticks out in your mind. And I've been on the trail enough that when I met with the prosecutors to begin with and with the FBI, I told them I know every inch of that trail because I don't listen to anything and I'm doing nothing but focusing on the trail. And I literally know darn near every inch of it. I could tell you where the little pathways are that come off of it and where the foliage is heaviest, etc. And I would recognize it in a second. I mean, easily see it.
At the time, we've been calling something the Liberty Trail. Do you know where the Liberty Trail is?
I know the Macomb Orchard Trail.
Okay. There's a Liberty Path that
comes off the trail.
Right. Okay.
Correct.
The times that you're talking about, the number of times that you have ridden that path, would be before and including the date of July 24th
Yes, and after.
and after. So you've ridden the trail a number of times in that same general direction since July 24th.
Probably over 100 times.
And that many times even before July 24th?
Oh, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Land. Rick, I have no further questions. Mr. Sheik may have some questions. No?
You're leaving us.
I was ready to go.
What kind of bicycle do you have?
I have a specialized cross trail, and I also have that's the bike I was riding that day. I also have a specialized crux, which is a high-speed carbon body.
That was just for my own personal benefit.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Lang.
Good afternoon.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just to confirm a couple of things, you never saw April Millsap or a young lady on the trail, correct?
I saw young ladies on the trail, but I didn't see April that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. Then you didn't see James Donald VanCallis on the trail, correct?
No, I did not.
Okay. What you saw was the dog who was on the south side as you went east, and then was on the north side from what you could tell in the woods,
Correct.
coming back. When you passed him and the dog was on the south side, the dog was not barking or making any noises, correct?
That's correct.
And you did you hear any noises from where eventually you heard the dog barking?
No.
Not at all. And I think you've stated that you did not have any headphones on or anything, so you're listening to the sounds of nature, correct?
Just riding along, just listening to whatever sounds are there.
Now, about how much time passed between the time when you passed the dog, and the dog is on the south side, you go over here to Richmond, and then you come back, and the dog is on the north side?
I think about an hour.
About an
About
hour.
a half hour one direction, about a half hour back, give or take.
And sir, you used an interesting term that I've not heard before, pedestrian bark. What does that mean?
Pedestrian, I use that a lot. It's steady and consistent. He wasn't growling, he wasn't none of that. It was just arf, 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 consistent, what I call pedestrian, just ba-doom, 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 but consistent. Like he's calling out.
Okay. And did you hear any other sound, like maybe a motorcycle or
No.
screams, tussle, anything else going on in there?
Nothing.
And is your iPhone set for our time zone, for the Eastern Standard
Yes.
time zone? Is there a setting clock time on your app so you can set the clock? Or
No,
is it
it automatically picks up off the phone.
off the GPS? Okay. Do you remember how many people you saw on the trail between Fulton and Omer Road that day, if you remember roughly?
Normally on the trail at that point, you see 2 or 3 people. You always see more people at crossroads, and that's a natural pause for a lot of bikers, is they'll take a break, because from there the next break is really when you get to Romeo. The next break after Romeo is when you get to Washington Township by Stony Creek. Those are the natural breaks in the trail. So people tend to congregate there. So you see more people. And then as you're going east towards Richmond, it thins out. So you see a lot more walkers near towns. Then it thins out, goes back to serious bikers. And then as you get to Richmond, it picks up again. You'll start seeing husbands and wives walking. You'll start seeing girls. You see a lot of girls, which you get to know are like high school. They're running high school track, and they're practicing for track. You see a lot more of that, depending on the time of day.
I know at the time that you saw the dog on the south side and then heard the yelping on the north side, it wasn't anything that crucial. Later when you got home and heard the news, then of course that information became crucial, correct?
Felt ill that I didn't stop.
I'm sorry?
I felt ill that I did not stop.
I'm sorry to hear that. But sir, now that you've had a chance to go back and think how crucial that time period was, do you recall what kind of groups of people you saw? I don't expect you to remember each person you saw, but do you remember seeing like a couple and maybe a gentleman and his 2 daughters or anything like that, or a guy and 2 sons?
Coming back heading west from Richmond, coming back on the trail, when I heard the dog barking. I had passed, and again, this was being pieced together in my mind after, when I got home, and I'm hearing what's going on. There was a couple. They were either rollerblading, biking, running, rollerblading. You get a lot of couples where one's on rollerblades, one's on a bike, or the wife might be jogging and the husband's on a bike. You get a lot of that. And there was a couple that I passed just prior to coming to the dog leg on that trail again, headed west.
Okay, just so that I'm clear, was that couple both rollerblading?
I honestly can't remember. I know one was either walking, jogging, or rollerblading, and the other was on a bike, I believe.
Okay, do you roughly remember these were Caucasian individuals?
I can't really say. I don't want to testify truthfully. I can't remember. I'm moving along pretty quickly. I saw them from the back of their heads.
Okay, and also, so you wouldn't recall the approximate age?
If I may say, the truth is on that trail in Armada, in Richmond, 99% of the time it's Caucasians on the trail.
Okay. And these people, do you remember if they were a younger couple in their 20s, maybe 40s, or middle-aged?
No.
Not at all?
Not at all.
If there was a motorcycle either on the walkway or right at the tip of the foliage, you would have probably noticed it, correct?
If it was on the trail, I would notice it. If it was revving up, I would have heard it. Even if it was off the trail, I would have heard it.
And you weren't, by chance, wearing any kind of earplugs, right?
No.
So you could meditate? Okay.
No.
Thank you. Nothing further. Thank you.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. You're excused.
Thank you.
Your next witness? Sir, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes.
And what is your first name?
Daniel.
And Daniel, what is, spell your last name?
Kosk, K-O-S-S.
Thank you, Daniel. Have a seat and speak loudly.
Morning, Mr. Cross.
Morning.
Would you have any objection if I called you Dan? Or
No.
Daniel? Okay, thank you. Once again, I'm going to need you to keep your voice up. You sound like a soft-spoken guy. And the microphones aren't always necessarily pointed in the right direction for amplification. And I'm going to be having you up on your seat in a few minutes, and when you're standing over by the screen, you'll really need to keep your voice up so all of these microphones can pick that up. Dan, how old are you?
32.
Are you married or single?
Married.
Any children?
Yes, one.
What city do you live in?
The village, Armada.
How long have you lived there?
6 years.
Who do you live there with?
Just my wife and my daughter.
Are you employed?
Yes.
Where are you employed?
Waterford Regional Fire Department.
How long have you been employed, I guess, as a firefighter?
6 years.
I guess a couple of questions. What's the distance between Armada, as the crow flies, and Waterford? drive it every
Yeah, as a
day.
crow flies, probably 35 miles.
I know as a county employee, whether my wife wants it or not, there's a consistency to me leaving and being here by 8 o'clock and then being home normally by 4:30, 5 o'clock. That's the shift of a county employee, more or less. What about firefighters? Do you work that same 8 to 5 shift?
No, I work a 24-hour
How
shift.
many times a week do you work a 24-hour shift?
Per week it's different. It's more on a rotation of on, off, on, so many days off.
During that time then, when you talk about being away for 24 hours, are you actually then away from your home and your family and wife and child for that period of time that could include a full day and a full night?
Yes.
As a result of that, was a decision, I guess, made to install something at your home?
Yes.
And what would that be?
Decision to install a surveillance system, just to have a little extra eyes on something so you can view on the screen versus going around checking the house. What was that noise?
And
So-
is it more for your wife's benefit or more for your benefit? Or both?
For both. The system allows me to actually be able to log on somewhere and see the cameras as well. And she can just flip to a screen and view.
Keep your voice up. Going back to July of 2014, aside from the position as a firefighter, were you also working a second job?
Yes, I was doing cabinetry.
When was, we're going to use July 24th as the bellwether date, which is the date of the murder in this case. Was the security system already installed in your home?
Yes.
How long had it been installed?
I want to say it was mid-May.
So it had been there for a couple of months?
Yes.
Would you describe for the jury the number of cameras the system has?
The system has 4. I only have 3 hooked up though.
And what general directions, before we get to the photographs, do those cameras point out toward?
One's in a west location, southwest, and there's one more or less just points down at a back door.
Is there an alarm system that goes with the surveillance videos?
No.
Is this system, I guess what we would call a Wi-Fi system, so that you would be able to, from anywhere that you're at, pull up your smartphone and take a look at cameras visually?
It is capable of that, yes.
All right. I'm going to show you a photograph, People's Proposed Exhibit number 110.
Just for the record, Mr. Hill, did you ask for 109 to be admitted?
I believe I did before I showed it. Now
And there was no objection, is that
No
correct?
objection at all.
Thank you.
And ask if you can recognize what is in this photograph.
It's just the overhead view of, I guess, our subdivision.
All right,
Right,
and that's
very-
familiar to you?
Yes.
At this time, Your Honor, I would move for the introduction of People's Proposed Exhibit number 110.
No objection, Your Honor.
It's admitted.
Without saying your address per se, what street do you live on?
Address is off of Jefferson,
Okay. Are you in the middle of the block or are you a corner house?
corner house.
I'm going to ask you to step down, keep your voice up, use the pointer. If you would show the jury the location of your house. All right. Okay, so keep your voice up. This is the corner of Monroe and Jefferson?
Yes.
Does Jefferson lead all the way back up to the main street?
No.
Does the street next to it, Madison, lead all the way up to the main street?
Yes, it does.
Is there a street beyond Madison? I see the trees sort of like stop the street here.
No, it ends over there.
All right, so of this area here that I see, only Madison will take you out of the subdivision?
Yes.
Okay. If we could, Craig, could you give me a blow-up of his house here at the corner? Sorry? This is it right here?
Yes.
Okay. If you would, just so that the jury can see, would you use the pointer and point out the surveillance camera onto Jefferson Street and what it's sort of, what image is, the direction it's pointed, and how wide the view is?
It's corner of my garage, against the view of my driveway, which comes basically in this direction.
All right.
West, northwest.
Keep your voice up. So it does capture Jefferson, it captures your driveway. And what's this street right here?
Holloway?
Okay. And it captures that corner at the stop sign there?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you indicated there was a second camera that pointed down at a back door. Where would that one be?
Back door is right here.
Okay.
That sliding door.
Now, you indicated there was a third camera that also projected forward. Would you show the jury where that projection goes to?
It's, my front porch, and it points off the southwest direction.
So more or less to this area right here?
Yes.
Okay. I see that, so Mr. Sheik can see, I see that there is a space right here. Does any of your security cameras catch the space right here?
If anything, it ends right off this
Okay.
line off my front door.
This driveway here, would that be in it?
No, would,
This front yard here?
no.
So neither that camera nor this side view get where like this house is right here on Monroe Street?
No.
Okay. You can have a seat for just a second. The system itself, does it, I mean, you've talked about it being a live streaming system. Is there a recording portion, I guess, of the security system?
Yes.
Does it record the images of both cameras?
Yes.
I guess, is there then a storage device within the security system that the data is stored to?
Yeah, it's a DVR.
Is that connected directly to your home computer, or is this an independent system?
It's independent, just to a TV screen in our house.
How many, I guess, hours or days are the recordings saved for?
I want to say it's almost 3 to 4 months worth, and then it just loops over, it starts looping over itself.
You don't have to change anything, it just...
No, it's just pending the settings, whether it's continuous, by motion sensed, or, you know, whatever the cameras are set to.
I guess on, and that brings up a point, you indicated a motion sensor. Does this record live, or does it only record when there's movement as to it being a motion sensor?
The two in the front are all continuous, but the back door is just, if it senses a motion, it'll record.
Taking you back to July 24th of 2014, did you work anywhere that morning?
The morning of
The July 24th?
4th. Yes, I was at work.
And that would have been at the Waterford job?
Yes.
Approximately what time did you arrive home from that job?
I stopped home around 9:15, and then took off to the second job.
All right, so you had worked, I guess that would be an evening shift, or the 24-hour shift ending at 9 in the morning-ish,
Yeah.
8 in the morning-ish in Waterford, and then you drove home to your house in Armada, arrived at 9 a.m.-ish?
Yes.
Then you left for the second job?
Yes.
Is that second job, since it seems to be carpentry. Do you go to a specific place, or do you go to various homes?
Specific shop.
Did you work that day at that shop?
Yes.
Approximately what time did you arrive home from that shop that day?
Usually 4:30.
Did there come a point in time where you spoke to some FBI agents or some law enforcement personnel?
Yeah, it's probably 5 minutes in the door. I had a detective come to the door, just asking questions of going house to house.
What information were they seeking?
He asked where I was the previous day, what I was doing, if I had anybody else that lived in the house.
All right, let me get the days correct, because maybe I got something wrong. You're talking now on the 25th, that Friday?
Yes.
Okay. I had it on the 24th, so if I could recorrect what I just did. On July 25th, that Friday, you had worked a 24-hour shift ending at 9 in the morning on that Friday. And then you
Thursday,
went-
the 24th, the Thursday, I worked 8 a.m. till Friday 8 a.m.
Okay, there we go.
I got home around 9:15 Friday morning.
Right. Thank you for making that correction for me. So now we're talking about 4:30 on the 25th, which is at Friday. You are home from the second job when you encounter the agents and they're asking questions.
Yes.
Had you seen anything that was unusual to you during that time that you were home on Thursday or Friday?
No, the only thing to me was my wife called me about a low-flying helicopter spotlight in their yards. And then Friday morning, just of whatever was brought forth that they've found so far, like that white panel van or whatever, and that was basically it.
Well, what did they ask you if you had seen?
The
what
detective?
What were the agents asking if you'd seen?
More or less if I had anything out of ordinary, or if I knew of anybody that I've talked to in the subdivision that they, had any information or heard anything.
Did you indicate to them at some point that you had a security system?
Yes.
At what point in the conversation did that happen, and what did you tell them about the security system that you had?
It was almost when he was walking away, because it was such fairly new installed. I'd mentioned I forgot I had some surveillance cameras up, and he had turned around basically and asked if he could view them, or basically said that we're looking for that van.
Right. So the first time these officers were there, they asked you to look for a van.
Yes.
Did they wait for you to do that, or did they leave?
He left and went back, said he was going to their, I believe it was the school, to tell his supervisor, whoever, that there was possibly surveillance footage.
Did he give you a card or some sort of number so you would know who to contact?
Yeah, I don't remember what number it was.
It's okay, but he did give you had a card.
Yes.
What did you do after that agent then left?
He gave me a time frame. I believe it was like 4:30 to 7:30 or something. And I went back and basically typed in that time frame, and I started viewing whatever the 2.5, 3 hours of footage.
Did you see a van of any type?
Yes.
Did you report that to them?
It was about 5 minutes. My wife got home, told her about, detective coming over, and he called me. So it was no more than 5-10 minutes that he had called back, and I had told him that I was just about to call, that I saw a van on the footage.
Now your footage comes in color or black and white?
It's color.
Was the van, what color was the van that you're looking at in the footage that you had?
White or a light gray, panel-looking work van.
Did there come a point in time where you were asked to look for something else?
That's the reason he called, was he wanted to say that we're also looking for some sort of a motorized bike,
Did you go back and look through the footage for that?
Yes.
Did you find any footage of that?
Yes.
When you found the footage, what did you, I guess, immediately do?
I was about to call back to tell him, but then I had two detective and an FBI agent at my front door.
So within minutes of them having called back to say we're also looking for a motorcycle, they ended up back at your door.
Yes.
And before you were able to call them and say, I found a motorcycle, I have one, they were back at your door.
Yes.
Did you play that, I guess, did you show them the footage?
I more or less told them the time frame, that it showed up, and then they just went and really did their thing of, we're going to take X amount of time, and then they just uploaded or imported whatever they needed on their device.
But did you look at it before and after they were there to become familiar with it?
Yes.
Okay. And hand you people proposed exhibit number 111. And I know it's just simply a disc, but did we show you what was on that disc beforehand?
Yes.
Could you describe for the jury what is on that disc?
It's video of, would be the driveway and our front porch footage.
And what's in that footage?
A motorcycle heading east, turning south, and then back east.
All right. At this time, Your Honor, you move for the introduction of People's Exhibit number 111.
No objection, Your Honor.
It's admitted.
Now, prior to showing you that footage, I would ask if you would step up and step down. We're going to show you the footage that has come in from Agent Zentz on the backtrack. I'm going to show you People's Exhibit number 11, and we're just going to start and stop it way on into it so that you can sort of show us where your house is. Please tell me, Craig, we don't have
No.
Okay. Going to tell you to stop it now. All right, can you tell us where your house is in this? Keep your voice up. So that's your house?
Yes.
All right, and would you point out, just for the record, what street that blue line is on right now?
Holloway.
And would you show us where Jefferson is? Keep your voice up. Will you show us where Madison is? Okay, will you show us where Monroe is? And in actuality, to answer my other question, it just simply that cement ends
Yes.
right where the bushes are there?
Yes.
Okay. Now, on this screen, which is what comes from the April's app, would you show us where this camera, what this camera captures, and would you show us then where the second camera captures? Keep your voice up and indicate what is camera 1 and camera 2.
The camera off of the driveway captures this direction here.
Okay.
The Holloway Jefferson intersection. And then the second camera off the front porch would capture the front porch kind of through these trees in the intersection of Jefferson and Monroe.
All right, remain there for just a second. If you would, Craig, roll it forward. Now, as we were watching this, when this exhibit was introduced, the path comes to a stop there for a handful of seconds. You can stop it right there, Craig. All right. This is your house here?
Yes.
Does any of the cameras that you have installed capture this area right here?
No.
Okay. And this camera, you indicated, just captures right in here?
Yes.
Keep your voice up, please.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. If you would then put up People's Exhibit number 111.